Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Welcome ladies and gentlemen. I've got a few really good stories for you today. And let me announce the two winners of the Oupes Exodus 600 and also the Oupes 1800 for the last promotion that Oupes had during Father's Day. And the winner of the 1800 is Josh. I have your email, so I'll be emailing you back to officially notify you by the end of this week. And the winner of the Exodus 600 is Michael. Michael, I will go ahead and send you an email as well from the alaskaprepper.com website. So expect to see those if you guys are watching this video by the end of the week so that we can get your information forwarded to Oupes so that they can mail you your prices. Congratulations to both of you. The question is, ladies and gentlemen, will you go to war for a country where most people feel that they've been forsaken by the government? And what is the government and the powers that be doing to try to make sure that they can send you to war? Americans are more likely to go to war with the government than submit to a draft. Ask yourselves that question, ladies and gentlemen. Do you believe that the powers that be are planning to send us to war because of the state of the world as it stands today? It's a big mess that they've made of the world. And yes, I will say they, even though we the people have the power to take over these powers that we've given to government, we don't, because they have done a great job at keeping us separated. But I digress. In a national poll last month, Americans were asked if they believed that a new civil war was likely to happen within their lifetime. The establishment media was shocked to report that 47% of the population said yes. That is a very big percentage. Those of us in the liberty media were not so surprised. I believe, according to the evidence, that we were already a short step away from civil war in the years 2021 to 2022. What do you think about that? In the past, I've said that the time span between 2020 and like 2022, 2023, in a way was a good thing because it woke a lot of people up. Unfortunately, there's going to be a very large group of people that will be paying for the consequences of the decisions that they made, whether they were coerced to make those decisions because they were going to lose their job or such or not. But it woke a lot of people up. And here you can see that some of those that were awake during that time were saying then there's no amount of coercion that will make us conform. And the best thing that you can do, ladies and gentlemen, in order not to have to conform to something that you personally don't believe in, is to be prepared. 100%. There were a lot of guys, millions, getting ready for the possibility of a passport enforcement. Remember those days? Gun ownership in the U.S. hit record highs during that time period, and conservative patriot groups saw a spike in public interest. As it turned out, the conspiracy theories were right all along. Imagine that. There really was an organized agenda to eliminate constitutional protections. And there has been for many years. Why? Because, ladies and gentlemen, this is my opinion. Whether you agree or not, let me know. But I believe that America was an experiment. It was an experiment to see, hey, if we allow a country to actually be free, will it prosper? Well, it backfired on those people that said, let's go ahead and make this an experiment. Right? Now, we have been the most prosperous nation in the world, I believe, because of freedom. Without freedom, there is no innovation. And without innovation, there is no prosperity. Excuse the squeaky sound down there, but Lulu is found one of her toys. And normally I don't talk that long on any one particular story or article that I go over, but this one is just very interesting. I do, however, for those of you that are new here, leave the link to all of the stories and or articles that I go over on a pinned comment, in addition to any other things that I talk about during that video, like let's say a sponsor of the video, which today's sponsor, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is Genesis Gold Group, but we'll talk about them later on. If we had allowed that passport policy to take hold, our liberties would have been officially erased forever. Whenever you give government power, do you think that we ever get it back? Think about the Patriot Act. They changed the name of it, but it's pretty much still the same thing that it was when they passed it. Economic freedoms would be abolished, they say. Access to the job market and trade would be impossible for anyone refusing that juicy juice that they were offering. Freely, of course. A lot of people woke up during that period, and they're talking about the period of the health crisis, and realized that an attempt at a totalitarian state in the U.S. was not only possible, it was happening right in front of them. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why our Constitution, all of it, is so important. Luckily, anti-mandate conservatives were loud enough, and the majority of red states passed legislations to block the lockdowns and the passport effort. This administration, the CDC, the WHO, and globalist groups like the WEF abruptly backed away from their draconian programs and gave up on the mandates by the end of 2022. And here they finish off this paragraph by saying, and to anyone that believes that the numbers that they put out were actually accurate, I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. That said, the same people are still in power today, and those people are looking for another avenue to institute sweeping controls over the populace. What is Plan B? World War III. People have been talking about it for a while now. Why? Because it's evident that the powers that be want there to be a world war by the actions that they're taking on your behalf, ladies and gentlemen. These actions that they're taking are on your or our behalf. We will be paying the consequences for the decisions that the politicians are making today, tomorrow. And that's what they say right here. One tried and true method for them to achieve that goal is to start a global war, then use the inevitable chaos and fear. Remember fear. We here in social medias, we prepper channels, we're nothing but fear mongers, but no one ever says that about the mainstream media. Anyways, they use fear to bring in an authoritarian measure. In other words, World War III might be their plan B. And that to me makes a lot of sense. Let's hope that it doesn't happen. There's a lot of things that say that it will, but let's just hope that it doesn't happen. And let's also work through legislation, through pressure from the bottom up to the states, to the counties, to the federal government eventually, that we don't end up going to war. And unfortunately, as they state here, the signs of this plan are everywhere. But perhaps most disconcerting is the growing discussion among Western nations about military conscriptions or the draft. The most recent passage of the NDAA include a measure to automatically register all males from 18 to 26 for selective service. And here it says it's not that big of a deal, really. It's just a very minor change because by law, it's already written into law that males between the ages of 18 and 26, or as soon as they turn 18, they have to register for the draft. But this would make it automatic. And there has also been a drive to automatically add women to the draft database. I completely disagree with women being drafted. Call me whatever you want. I don't care. Right? A strong nation is a nation that uses its men to fight its wars, not its women. And especially a stronger nation is a nation that protects its borders with its men. And here the critics are saying that the public is overreacting to the bill because it changes very little in terms of the draft scenario. What these people don't understand, it is not a minor revision in the NDAA that have the public concern. It's the overall increase in rhetoric surrounding the draft that matters. Numerous military officials in the US and Europe have mentioned conscription in the past. Do you think that people are going to actually go to war this time around, ladies and gentlemen? Do you think they're going to go to war when they see all of these veterans that are homeless being left out in the street? But all of the things that are needed are being given to people that came into this country unlawfully. Do you think they're going to go to war when they see that their standard of living is being lower and lower and lower every year as we give money to all these other countries that have nothing to do with our sovereignty? Ladies and gentlemen, please give this video a like. If you're still here, thank you very much. Let it run all the way through because that really helps. All right. These videos are not very popular with YouTube, and obviously they don't get shared or recommended as much as I believe they should, so that people can stay awake as to what is really going on. And one day, like I said before, if the government comes and says, hey, I need your son or your daughter to go fight in this foreign land, maybe we should be a little more informed as to why it is that they do these things. instead of just going blindly. Now let's take a quick break and say thank you very much to Genesis Gold Group for sponsoring this video. I'm not a financial advisor, but the folks at Genesis Gold Group specialize in helping those who want to diversify their excess wealth by converting their fiat currency retirement plans into a plan that is backed by real money. So if you're in a position where you are wondering what you can do in order to diversify or insulate your wealth against what I like to call the inferno of inflation, give Genesis Gold Group a call and they can provide you with the information that you need in order to make an educated decision. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, that throughout history, every single fiat currency that has ever existed has gone away. Its value has gone away, gone to zero. So it's very important that you protect yourself. The petrodollar panic. Is Saudi Arabia really separating from the petrodollar? Is this fact or is this fiction? Well, remember my stance on this, and it's always been that it doesn't matter. Saudi Arabia can stop selling oil in dollars if they want, the OPEC nations, whatever. The dollar will still be the world reserve currency of the world. What really matters the most, in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not an economist by profession, but what really matters the most is how much purchasing power, how much real value does your dollar afford you? Are you spending more dollars today than you were last year for the same stuff? Are you having to work more hours today than you were last year for the same stuff to be able to afford the same standard of living? And the answer to that is yes, at least through national polls it is. Ever since, I think it was since 2019 or 2020, the average American is now spending about $11,000 to $14,000 more per year just to maintain the same standard of living. What is that a condition of? It is a condition of the dollar losing purchasing power. So they can call the dollar the world reserve currency all they want. They can say the petrodollar is never going to go away. They can say it all they want. But what does it really matter to you? What it really matters to you, especially if you live within the United States of America, what matters is how much is that dollar buying you. Recently, a few media outlets have warned of the imminent demise of the petrodollar agreement, commonly called the petrodollar. And again, I will leave the link to these articles. I don't want to make these videos an hour long, so that's why I don't read through all of them. But the pinned comment that you will see in the comment section will have the link to all of these articles. And this is a great read as well, but I'm just going to summarize for you what this gentleman says. Notwithstanding whether there was a formal agreement or not, you know, that agreement that happened in 1974 between Saudi Arabia and the United States government, the petrodollar is not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere, ladies and gentlemen, and it doesn't have to. But is your standard of living going up or down? That's the question. The more that we manufacture here in the United States of America and the less deficits that we have here in the United States of America, or no deficit whatsoever, in my opinion, will garner you a better standard of living than what we're having now with the inflation that is occurring because of high deficits and a lot of borrowing, etc. Even if Saudi Arabia accepts rubles, yuans, pesos, or gold for its oil, it will need to convert those currencies into dollars in almost all instances, they say. Consider that Saudi Arabia keeps its currency value pegged to the dollar as shown in the graph below. And they also have about a 3-year high in holding security notes valued at about $135 billion. Does it seem like Saudi Arabia is trying to disassociate from the US dollar and US financial markets? What I think Saudi Arabia is doing is they're lining themselves up for success. They have a plan. When this dollar thing fails, and eventually it will, and the thing is, ladies and gentlemen, that we can't say when it will fail. The dollar will one day go to zero, just like every other fiat currency has gone to zero. One day it will. When that will be, not sure, but better be prepared 10 years prior to than try to get prepared one day after, etc. And here he finishes it off by saying that stories about the imminent death of the petrodollar have been around for decades, and they have. Someday they will be right. That's the thing. We just don't know when. And the dollar will follow the way of prior global reserve currencies. Now, when that actually happens, I believe that we will already be living like a third world nation, pretty much hand to mouth. Take a look at some of the places like in India, for example, where you see kids selling pencils in the streets so that they can bring a few rupees home in hopes to be able to buy a few vegetables for dinner, etc. That's how I believe the United States will turn into, unless we bring back our manufacturing, we start drilling our own energy and be self-sufficient, and we start exporting back out of our borders instead of only importing mostly. And if you're one of those persons that says, I don't know what you're talking about, AP, my standard of living is just fine. Well, God bless you, and I hope that you continue to have success, because the standard of living of average Americans are falling and falling more and more every year. And this is just one story of, I'm sure, thousands that are floating around. Thieves in Seattle are targeting EV charging stations, and it's reached an epidemic proportion. Why do you think that is? Do you think that that's because they're doing so well? Do you think that that's because the real physical economy is doing so well? No, ladies and gentlemen. Were they stealing EV charging cables 4 years ago? I didn't hear about that. Yeah, there were probably less, but were they doing that 4 or 5 years ago, stealing EV charging cables? Why is it just this last year that this has started to happen? Why? Because a lot of people are really hurting financially. Over the past 12 months, thieves in Seattle metro area have stolen over 100 electric vehicle charging cables. I can only imagine how much it costs to replace that with manpower, parts, etc., compared to how much they get. And I'm pretty sure it's the copper that they're taking out of there to go scrap. Let's see. Driven mostly by soaring copper scrap prices, this is incredibly frustrating for EV owners who arrive at these charging stations only to find severed cords and unable to charge. Last week, half of the cables at an EV GO station outside the QFC in Ballard were cut. Thieves have also hit other charging stations across other Washington cities in recent months. I think I read somewhere that one of the Tesla charging centers where like all of the cables were taken out of them. And ladies and gentlemen, that's what preparedness is all about. Don't get me wrong. I see that there is hope for our nation and for the world. I see that there is hope because I believe in cycles, and I believe that we are at the end of an era and that we will be turning over to a new era just within the next decade or so, if not less. However, we must be prepared to go through the hard times and the pain that it takes for a new era to be born. So I hope that you're still preparing. I hope you got something out of this. And if you're still here, you are awesome. Thank you very much for all of your support. I have a pretty fun video coming out tomorrow, so I hope that you join in for that. And before I forget, let me say happy 4th of July to everyone in America tomorrow. All right, because today's the 3rd, obviously, and the video that I have out for tomorrow has already been edited and everything, so I don't mention happy 4th of July there. But happy 4th of July to everyone in America. Remember what Independence Day is all about, ladies and gentlemen. Let's keep our independence by doing the things that we have to do, by doing the hard things that we have to do. And the easiest thing that you can do in order to keep your independence is to get prepared and stay prepared. God bless every one of you. God bless America. Thank you very much, Genesis Gold Group, for sponsoring this video. I'm Alaska Prepper. I am out.